I believe in women's rights and the right of a woman to control her own body. I believe in gay rights and gay marriage. Those are my views, and it is no secret. But I came here today because I believe from the bottom of my heart that it is vitally important for those of us who hold different views to be able to engage in a civil discourse. Too often in our country, and I think both sides bear responsibility for us, there is too much shouting at each other. There is too much making fun of each other. Now, in my view, and I say this as somebody whose voice is hoarse because I have given dozens of speeches in the last few months, it is easy to go out and talk to people who agree with you. I was in Greensboro, North Carolina just last night. All right, we had 9,000 people out. Mostly they agreed with me. And tonight, we're going to be in Manassas and have thousands out, and they agree with me. That's not hard to do. And that's what politicians, by and large, do. We go out and we talk to people who agree with us. But it is harder, but not less important, for us to try and communicate with those who do not agree with us on every issue. And it is important to see where, if possible, and I do believe it's possible, we can find common grounds. Now, Liberty University is a religious school, obviously. And all of you are proud of that. You are a school which, as all of us in our own way, tries to understand the meaning of morality. What does it mean to live a moral life? And you try to understand in this very complicated modern world that we live in what the words of the Bible mean in today's society. You are a school which tries to teach its students how to behave with decency and with honesty, and how you can best relate to your fellow human beings, and I applaud you for trying to achieve those goals.
All right, folks, that was a beautiful montage put together by our own Andy Kennedy. And I just want to say, take a moment. That was from Liberty University, the very first time Bernie ran for president. That was in front of a crowd of people most progressives wouldn't even have a conversation with, wouldn't even have coffee with. But there was Bernie, talking to them as if they had every right to hear what a progressive agenda was, speaking to them like human beings and presenting the progressive case for a better America. Last night, Bernie Sanders had a town hall, and this town hall was seen by more people than had ever seen a town hall before. In fact, it's the #1 on the Nielsen ratings. Think about this for a minute. more people saw Bernie Sanders break down a real progressive agenda in what would have been deemed hostile territory. Talk about a transcendent candidate. Someone who's taken the time over a period of 40 plus years to lay the groundwork to be able to pull something like this off. And folks, you've got the makings of something truly special. That montage, if you all remember where you were when this was all going on, you know what you felt. You know what you thought. You know what you were fighting for. It wasn't just a man. It was an agenda. It was a whole platform of ideas. It was feeling hope for the first time, probably in your lifetime. Some of you probably fell for the Obama hope and change, and that's fine. But I know in my lifetime, that was the first time that I felt any real hope. So what I want to do is talk about some of the moments Bernie had in his town hall last night. So we've picked 3 of them. I'm going to show you the clip, and I'm going to talk about it. The 3 are, 1, Medicare for All, which is a great opportunity, where he took a question that I know damn well they weren't expecting to resonate with that crowd the way it did, and it blew up spectacularly in their face. The other one is a discussion on a Green New Deal. And then the last one is the discussion on trade, and we'll transition into what we'll call a federal job guarantee. And then I'm going to take a moment and freestyle and talk a little bit about where I feel like Bernie came up short as well. Now, lest anybody think that I'm bashing Bernie, I am in no way, shape, for God's sakes. You saw the montage, you've seen everything we've done, and you've heard my misty-eyed hearkening back. So trust me when I say this, there's not an ounce of bash here. I'm all in. But what I'm trying to do is show you what we need to be focused on. So let's get started. This first one, this is a Green New Deal.
Senator, you look at the list, you're for the Green New Deal.
You know, I'm sure you're familiar with the scientific reports that tell us that we have all of 12 years to significantly cut carbon emissions, or else there will be irreparable damage to the United States and countries all over the world. So we have a moral responsibility, in my view, to transform our energy system and leave this planet healthy and habitable for our children and our grandchildren. And by the way, when we do that, we create millions of good paying jobs.
So when you think about this, I mean, I guess I want to let you hear this one more time because I think it's worth hearing.
Thank you so much for being here. My question is, why do you believe that the government can provide better health care than the private sector, and why should people who like their plans be forced to switch?
Okay. First of all, let's be clear what we mean by Medicare for All, okay? Medicare is a government-run program for seniors, which is widely popular and quite effective. In 1965, when Lyndon Johnson passed that bill, it was called by some Republicans socialism and everything else. But you go to the average senior and you say, how do you feel about Medicare? And they will tell you that they will oppose any Republican effort to cut Medicare. And by the way, in Trump's budget, he has proposed an $845 billion cut over a 10-year period to Medicare, which seniors don't want. So to answer your question, we are not talking about government-run health care. The Veterans Administration, and most veterans think that that's a pretty good health care system. Talk to the American Legion of the VFW. They strongly defend the veterans' health care. That's government-run. What we are talking about is simply a single-payer insurance program, which means that you will have a card which says Medicare on it. You'll go to any doctor that you want. You'll go to any hospital that you want. Currently, right now, We got 30 million people, zero health insurance, and many of you and tens of millions of Americans are underinsured with high deductibles and copayments. Is that correct? Yes. All right. We pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. 1 out of 5 Americans are getting ripped off by the drug companies who make billions in profits while charging us the highest prices in the world. We spend twice as much per capita on health care as do the people of any other nation.
So when you listen to that, Bernie Sanders is laying this out there in front of this Fox News crowd. They're all on his side. There's not an ounce of pushback. They're all 100% on his side. And you think to yourself, what would it take for us to really push the ball over the hill? Is it the Republicans we got to fight? Well, yeah, absolutely. Is it the Democrats we have to fight? Well, you already heard Neera Tanden, and you already heard from all the others in the think tanks and the center left and the quote-unquote, I call them right wing, but the other Democrats, the corporate Democrats, they're already taking pot shots, okay? And if you look, in the Atlantic, they had one negative hit on Sanders. They said, Bernie didn't take seriously the critique of other people. He put them off as shills, basically. He said that anybody that didn't understand his plans basically was a shill. And so they attacked him because, of course, Bernie didn't get into the answer to the question of how he was going to pay for it. Now, this is kind of a recurring theme throughout the evening. Now, you would think that he would have an answer for that right on the tip of his tongue, and that he would be able to punch it home. I'm here to tell you that's our job as activists, as voters, as supporters. Our job is to understand how that system works and give the man air cover. But it is disappointing in front of such a massive crowd that he did not take the opportunity to say, guys, we're going to pay for it the same way we pay for war. It's not going to require a Wall Street speculation tax. It's just going to require keystrokes. But he didn't say that. And unfortunately, folks like the Atlantic and the Daily Beast and all the other center corporate Democrat shill outlets are taking advantage of that, basically saying he still didn't articulate a plan on how to pay for it. That right there is an avoidable gaffe. So I'm going to go to the next one. This is on the Green New Deal.
Senator, you look at the list. You're for the Green New Deal.
You know, I'm sure you're familiar with the scientific reports that tell us that we have all of 12 years to significantly cut carbon emissions, or else there will be irreparable damage to the United States and countries all over the world. So we have a moral responsibility, in my view, to transform our energy system and leave this planet healthy and habitable for our children and our grandchildren. And by the way, when we do that, we create millions of good paying jobs.
So Bernie Sanders is spot on. And I want to say this. We've got a situation where green jobs involve an incredible amount of technology, a lot of high skill, high salary type jobs, a massive amount of really, really good jobs. Now, we talk about a federal job guarantee, which we'll get to in a minute. But the federal job guarantee is the base wage. It's the floor. Now, you don't want high-tech, high-wage jobs as our floor, as the bottom of the salary pool. But a federal job guarantee sets the wage floor at a living wage with living benefits. All the federal benefits rolled right there for the individual to ensure that they and their family are whole. Period. As a right. As a right. But don't conflate the federal job guarantee with all the other jobs that come from a Green New Deal. I don't know if you're involved in technology in your day-to-day life, beyond texting and stuff like that. But for those of us that are in technology, that are in communications, that work with electric and work with various other smart grid type systems, the amount of work to retrofit, to install new, to maintain, to design, to test the area, the environment, you name it, the amount of jobs to take care of just getting us up the snow is going to exceed the number of people we have in this country. I'm telling you, we're going to be begging for immigrants with degrees and everyone else to come to the country to help us. That's how powerful a Green New Deal would be. Which begs the question, how are you going to pay for it, right? Again, these are the questions. It's never been an issue of whether these programs are good ideas or neat ideas or whether we should do these things. For the left, shit, man, do it all. But getting over that hump, passing the pragmatic test that we always hear so much about. Just be pragmatic. Let's take it one step at a time. If we understood how to pay for it, we being the people that are not aware of federal finance, that do not actually understand that the United States government is monetarily sovereign and spends with keystrokes, not sitting there collecting big fat stacks of tax ducats. Nah, they're not going Breaking Bad. There's none of those round rolls. Here, yo, man, hey, go ahead and do a Green New Deal, man. Here's some fat stacks. Here's some Benjamins. That's not how it works. Congress authorizes spending, keystrokes are made, deposits are made, spending goes out. So this very, very vital thing that Bernie Sanders, unlike any other politician, has got the most advanced economics group backing him. The smartest people in the room backing him. But he's afraid. This is one of the things that always... I get it, because I know how hard it is to crack the seal on some people's disbelief, to get them over the hump to understand how simple federal finance really is, at least at the cursory level. But Bernie's up there to try and win, to get elected. And so it's up to us to help change that paradigm, to make it so that there aren't people running around talking about, well, here's a meme I saw and it says that 25% of our tax dollars go to... Right? That's not how it works. We know that. When I say we, I'm talking about people that understand economics, that follow how federal financing works, that know modern monetary theory and understand the way a free-floating sovereign fiat currency that is non-convertible to a commodity like gold or anything else works. And the United States has had that exact scenario since 1971 when Richard Nixon removed us from the Bretton Woods Accord. So everything that we're talking about here is on the table and can be done. That's the thing. And so when Bernie leaves the door open for people to question his answer for how you're going to pay for it, we've got another problem. Just like a lot of the Democrats aren't terribly interested in knowing the intricacies of things, they just want to vote blue and be done with it and go off to brunch. Unfortunately, there are some burners out there. They don't really want to know all the details. They get bored. They just want to know that Bernie said. Well, Bernie said. I wrote an article a few years back called Bernie's Biggest Problem is his most avid supporters, because many of them don't question what he says. Bernie isn't always saying what he thinks. Bernie is sometimes saying what he thinks people need to hear because they aren't capable of hearing other things. The reality is the big gift here is we all want health care. We all want a Green New Deal. We all want free student loan, student debt erased and so on and so forth. But because the country hasn't been prepped properly, we haven't done our job as activists well enough yet. The academics have been too cloistered in the White Tower, the ivory tower, to really break out of the glass seal that could allow them to be even more effective. And then, of course, you've got the tone policers out there that try to squash any momentum possible within the MMT community. Shame on them. So you've got this whole array of things that are working against it, making it difficult, making an already more difficult problem even more difficult. So I got Bernie some slack here. I don't want him to not say it. I want him to go up there, fist in the air, and say, damn it, we're monetarily sovereign and can afford all this stuff. Stop asking stupid questions, guys. How the hell do you think we afford all those bombs? You think that's tax dollars? Are you nuts? I wish he'd do that, but he's not going to probably. All right, so that's up to us. We have to let Bernie be Bernie, and we have to be the ones burying the hatchet, just boring straight through and making sure that the voters understand so they don't keep asking. You see these silly memes. I'd be happy to pay more in taxes just to get Medicare for all. I'd be more happy to pay more taxes. It's like, we are all happy to pay taxes if it meant something, but it doesn't. That's the thing. And we need Bernie to get on board with that. I know he is on board with it, but we want him to vocalize it because he's the people's champion. And a lot of people aren't going to ever hear this message until Bernie says it himself, unfortunately. You remember that whole hashtag, not me, us, if I tell you what to do, don't listen to me? Well, people don't listen to him, and they listen to him anyway, if you know what I'm saying. So anyway, we got one more here. This is the trade deal.
My question for Senator Sanders here is, how would you bring back jobs in industry like Bethlehem Steel that have been lost due to, in part, trade deals that don't favor the American working class?
So let me suggest what is not a radical idea. American workers should not have to compete against desperate people around the world who are making $1 or $2 an hour. Now, I think we have a moral responsibility to lift up poor people around the world along with the rest of the wealthy countries. But you can do that without engaging in a race to the bottom. And I talk to union workers, and they say, our boss has said that if you don't take a pay cut, you don't take a cut in health care, we're going to move to Mexico, we're going to move to China, where people are prepared to work for almost nothing.
That's right. I mean, these things that Bernie just laid out there are very important. I mean, when you understand, and this is something that you should understand, okay? I'll just put this right here for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about. While I'm talking, this will give you an opportunity to think about this for a second, okay? One of the big deals with, employment in this country is that because, capitalism demands a profit, the states have to compete for what companies come to their state. Which ones are going to make a headquarters there? Which ones are going to hire their people? And so states in the U.S. will compete with each other by slashing taxes. Well, at the state level, taxes are everything. Bonds, taxes, commerce, you name it, sales receipts, whatever. It all matters. Sales taxes, any kind of tax, gas tax, whatever. The states are monetarily non-sovereign. They are currency users, much like you and I, much like companies, much like anyone but the federal government or other currency issuing nations like Japan, Canada, etc. But when these states compete and they slash taxes and they begin the race to the bottom, understand also that includes a race to the bottom on wages, because around the world there's competition. Much of it is unnecessary competition. And as Bernie clearly laid out there, there's no point in U.S. workers competing against desperate countries that are going to cut the bottom out of, just slash wages. When in reality, we can augment our salary system very easily through the use of our sovereign currency. And that's what he's saying. You don't realize it, maybe. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I realize it. We're talking about offsetting the imbalances around the world with our own taking care of home in that regard. But then he goes a step further and he says we should be helping other countries around the world too. And he's right. Because here's the thing. We don't have to always have winners and losers in that regard. We can have a win-win planet. And we can have a win-win employment structure, because regardless of whether we want to coerce people into working or not coerce people into working or whatever, what we have to realize is that there is work that must be done, period. There's people that are going to have to fix the toilets. There's people that are always going to have to repair the electric. There's people that are always going to have to fix and build and do different things. There's always going to be work. Okay, always going to be work of some variety. Even if it turns into care work, there's always going to be work. The United States has the ability to pay people a wage that allows them to live better than they do today, with far less stress in their lives, with far less tension. Now, these trade deals, the thing about this is, and this is one of the troublesome areas, it's all the rage to talk about bringing the jobs back. Well, we don't want to bring back twisting the tie on a Tootsie Pop or on a Hershey's Kiss. The work that we want to do today, we want to look forward at work. We don't want to look backwards at work. We don't need Eugene V. Debs. We need a new left. We need a new approach for a future world. We need to stop trying to recreate things that we're glad we don't have. Okay? With a Green New Deal, many of the jobs, the blue-collar jobs, the low-skilled jobs that people are happy to do, that don't want to go doing other things, will be available and serve the community and serve to mitigating climate change. We don't need to bring back manufacturing jobs like that. We just don't. Manufacturing is one of the areas where automation is clearly wiping jobs out. It's not something we want to bring back. So you think about this. All the pay-fors. Bernie has got the best platform of them all. And he's got the absolute best economic advisor, bar none. But the messaging is going to set the stage for future problems with those center lefties, with those center right lefties, whatever you want to call them, the corporate shills. Because they are going to play on your mind. And they're going to keep repeating the question of how are you going to pay for it? And at some point in time, somebody's going to have to play the Harlequin and jump out there and go, ba-da! You know, because right now what's happening is there's fear. He's saying, I'm going to stick with what's important. Because to be fair, economics is like the unsexy chassis of a car. It's necessary, but it's not the point. The point is you want the nice seats. You want the great radio. You want to be able to enjoy the ride. You want comfort. You want style. You want efficiency. Whatever it is you want. But when it comes to the chassis, it's just there. It just better be good, right? Well, MMT is the chassis of a Green New Deal. It's the drive shaft. It's the engine. It's the stuff you don't see. But it's the most important, because otherwise you're just sitting on blocks in some parking lot somewhere. MMT is what gets us to the dance. It gets all the kids shaking their booty. You know what I'm saying? This is what stirs the drink. So what I want to do is I want to tell you all this as people that are fighting for a Green New Deal, and as people that are most likely supporting a progressive, whether it be Tulsi, whether it be, Bernie or I can't imagine anybody else, but let's just say it's somebody else. You need to understand, regardless of who you're supporting, how important the underlying economic message is to delivering all these massive programs. Because without the answer to how you're going to pay for it, it's going to blow up in your face. Thank God we have Bernie up there taking bullets. Thank God we've got Bernie going into enemy lines. Thank God we got Bernie with the greatest economic team known to mankind. But it's up to us to take him at his word, not listen to him, and go out and educate people on the economics so we can answer in the trenches the question of how you're going to pay for it. I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progressives, and I'm going to leave you with another chance to watch the Bernie montage. Have a great night, everybody. I'm out.
I believe in women's rights and the right of a woman to control her own body. I believe in gay rights and gay marriage. Those are my views, and it is no secret. But I came here today because I believe from the bottom of my heart that it is vitally important for those of us who hold different views to be able to engage in a civil discourse. Too often in our country, and I think both sides bear responsibility for us, there is too much shouting at each other. There is too much making fun of each other. Now, in my view, and I say this as somebody whose voice is hoarse because I have given dozens of speeches in the last few months, it is easy to go out and talk to people who agree with you. I was in Greensboro, North Carolina just last night. All right, we had 9,000 people out. Mostly they agreed with me. And tonight, we're going to be in Manassas and have thousands out, and they agree with me. That's not hard to do. And that's what politicians, by and large, do. We go out and we talk to people who agree with us. But it is harder, but not less important, for us to try and communicate with those who do not agree with us on every issue. And it is important to see where, if possible, and I do believe it's possible, we can find common grounds. Now, Liberty University is a religious school, obviously. And all of you are proud of that. You are a school which, as all of us in our own way, tries to understand the meaning of morality. What does it mean to live a moral life? And you try to understand in this very complicated modern world that we live in what the words of the Bible mean in today's society. You are a school which tries to teach its students how to behave with decency and with honesty, and how you can best relate to your fellow human beings, and I applaud you for trying to achieve those goals.